The silence hit hardest after the sign came down. For years, my cafe filled the air with the grind of beans and low chatter, but now it just smelled like stale coffee grounds clinging to the walls. I stood in the empty space, boxes stacked around my boots, rain tapping the window like impatient fingers. The town I'd built this for, the regulars who knew my coffee order and secrets, whispered behind my back about debts and her kind, their loyalty fading like the daylight. Everything I'd poured in, the dream of a place that felt like home, gone. No more ties, no more safety net, just me, driving into the rural dark where isolation waited like open fields. I climbed into the truck, key turning with a roar that drowned the last echoes. Headlights sliced the rain, small-town lights shrinking in the mirror. That last morning, the bell above the door jingled softer than usual, like it knew. A few customers trickled in, not for the scones or lattes, but to gawk. Old Mrs. Harlan ordered her usual black coffee, but her eyes darted to the empty pastry case, then away. "Heard about the loans?" she muttered to her friend across the room, voice carrying like wind over dry grass. I wiped the counter harder, pretending not to hear. The gossip had started weeks ago, debts piling from the slow season, whispers about why a woman like me ran a place so central, unmarried, no family to back her. Her kind, they'd say in hushed tones at church potlucks, boycotts turning regulars into ghosts. By noon, the place felt like a hollowed-out shell, chairs scraped back empty. I moved through the motions, refilling the urn even though no one asked. The air hung heavy with the ghost of cinnamon and vanilla, now undercut by the musty scent of defeat. One by one they left tips like condolences, loose change, rattling in the jar. Tim from the hardware store lingered longest, hat in hand. "Tough break, Elena," he said, avoiding my eyes. I nodded, throat tight. He'd come every morning for 5 years, sharing stories of his grandkids. Now, his boots echoed out the door, final as a closing gate. The weight settled in my chest then, a dull ache like carrying feed sacks too long. Failure wasn't just numbers on a ledger, it was faces turning away, the community I'd stitched together, unraveling thread by thread. Afternoon dragged. I swept floors that didn't need it, dust motes dancing in the slanted light like lost memories. The mugs sat unused on shelves, gathering a fine layer of dust that made my fingers itch. Each one held a story, a chipped handle from Sarah's hurried mornings, a faded logo from the town's harvest festival I'd hosted. This cafe wasn't just walls and counters. It was the heart of Willow Creek, where farmers griped about rain and kids did homework after school. I'd opened it 10 years back, fresh from city burnout, dreaming of roots in this small town, poured every dime, every late night into making it a hub. And now, hollow, like an abandoned barn after... The stock's been sold off, wind whistling through cracks. The banker arrived at 4, suit crisp against the faded aprons hanging by the kitchen. Mr. Ellis, with his clipboard and sympathetic nod that didn't reach his eyes. "Sign here, Elena." My hand shook as I handed over the keys, the metal cold and heavy. They jangled in his palm, a sound that twisted something deep. Regulars who'd once filled these seats now crossed the street to avoid the windows. Isolation hit like a sudden frost, chilling, unexpected. No more good morning waves, no laughter bouncing off the tin ceiling. Just me, alone with the echo of what was. The weight in my chest pressed harder, breath shallow. How do you lose not just a business, but the people who made it mean something? The ones who judged quietly until the cracks showed, then scattered. I locked the door one last time, bell tinkling like a farewell. Outside, the sky darkened early, rain starting in fat drops that blurred the closed sign. The street looked emptier, storefronts hunkered against the weather. I loaded the last boxes into the truck. A few photos, the old register, remnants of a life. No ceremony, no tears yet. Just the practical ache of folding chairs that wouldn't fit, leaving behind the chalkboard menu scrawled with tomorrow's specials that would never come. Driving away felt like pulling roots from hard soil, each turn of the wheel tearing deeper. The community I'd served, the one that had whispered my secrets to the wind, faded in the rear view. What now? No job lined up in this tight-knit place. Gossip clinging like burrs. Limited spots for a woman without references, especially one like me. As the truck rumbled out, headlights cut through the downpour, illuminating empty fields stretching toward distant hills. The radio crackled static, mirroring the buzz in my head. Willow Creek's lights blurred into pinpricks, then nothing. The road wound narrower, flanked by pines that loomed like silent watchers. My back ached from the lifting, hunger gnawing low since breakfast. But it was the quiet that clawed, the absence of clinking cups, familiar voices. I'd traded noise for this void, chasing whispers of work in remoter spots where judgments might not follow so quick. Yet doubt crept in with the wet chill, seeping through the vents. Could I start over, or was this just trading one isolation for another? The wipers slapped rhythmically against the windshield, smearing the rain into streaks that blurred the world outside. I'd heard about a remote stretch up in the hills, places where small ranches needed hands for odd jobs, no questions asked. Limited spots back in Willow Creek, especially after the whispers turned to outright avoidance. No barista gigs in a town that knew my face too well, my story too quick. So here I was, pushing the truck deeper into nowhere, the engine's hum the only company. The radio caught fragments of country tunes before dissolving into static, like my thoughts, fuzzy, unreliable, looping back on themselves, hands tight on the wheel, knuckles white against the worn leather. I felt the pull of exhaustion settling in. Boxes shifted in the bed behind me, strapped down but still rattling with every pothole. My back throbbed from hours of hauling, muscles knotted like fence wire pulled too taut. Hunger twisted low in my gut, a sharp reminder I'd skipped lunch amid the final goodbyes that weren't. A half-eaten granola bar lay on the seat, but I couldn't stomach it. The road climbed, twisting through valleys where fog clung to the earth like a shroud. Isolation wrapped around the cab, thicker than the damp air seeping through the seals. No other headlights, just the occasional deer-eye glint in the beams, vanishing into the brush. Memories flooded unbidden, the kind that hit hardest in the quiet. Back in town, it started subtle. A sidelong glance at the counter. A pause before ordering. Then the boycotts. Quiet at first. "Not comfortable bringing the family here anymore," one regular said, eyes on his shoes. Whispers about my lifestyle. The woman who lived alone, no husband in sight, pouring her life into a place that served everyone but fit none too neatly. Church ladies who'd baked pies for fundraisers now crossed the street, their voices carrying on the wind. "She's the reason it's failing, drawing the wrong crowd." The business drained slow, like sand through a sieve, until debts swallowed the rest. I'd built that cafe as my anchor, a spot where stories swapped over steaming mugs, where I belonged. Losing it meant losing them. The nods, the inside jokes, the sense of being seen without the weight of judgment. But the echoes followed, imagined or not. What if word spread here too? Small towns connected like veins in the hills, gossip flowing faster than creeks after rain. A woman showing up with a truck full of cast-offs, no clear routes? Would they size me up the same? Fear coiled in my chest, mixing with the chill. I'd fled the city years ago for Willow Creek's promise of simplicity, only to find the same narrow paths. Now this remote pull, jobs scarce as water in drought, forcing me toward places where survival meant blending into the dust. The dash clock glowed 8:47, miles ticking up without mercy. My eyes burned, but pulling over felt like surrender. The road leveled into a straight shot, pines thinning to open pasture. Distant lights flickered, a cluster of ranch buildings warm against the black. Exhaustion tugged harder, eyelids heavy as wet hay. I eased the truck to the shoulder, gravel crunching under tires, engine idling down to a rumble. The rain eased to a drizzle, pattering on the roof like hesitant footsteps. I leaned back, breath fogging the glass, the weight of the day pressing like a storm cloud. No plan beyond a vague ad for ranch help, board included. Just enough to keep moving, to not unravel completely. Stepping out, boots sank into mud softened by the downpour. Cold, seeping through denim. The air smelled of wet earth and pine, sharp after the stale confines. A faint glow from the nearest house drew me forward, porch light cutting the dark. Heart thudding steady, I wiped rain from my face and approached the door, knuckles rapping against weathered wood. Work! That's all I needed, a chance to steady the ground under my feet again. The door creaked open slow, like it hadn't been hurried in years. She stood there, backlit by a dim lamp, her gaze steady as the hills beyond. Mid-40s maybe, with lines etched from sun and wind, not worry. Calloused hands rested on the frame, nails short and dirt crescented, carrying a faint scent of hay and earth that cut through the rain's damp. Her shirt was flannel, sleeves rolled to elbows, revealing forearms corded from real work. No smile, just assessment. Quiet, unflinching. I shifted in the mud, words sticking. Sorry for the late knock. Saw your lights. I'm Elena. Heard there might be work around here, ranch help, anything. I can start tomorrow. Suspicion flickered in me, the kind born from too many closed doors back home. Why open to a stranger, dripping on the porch? But she didn't slam it, just tilted her head, eyes tracing my soaked jacket, the truck idling behind like a guilty shadow. She stepped aside, voice low and even, like gravel under tires. Tessa. No last name, no questions yet. The kitchen beyond smelled of wood smoke and stew, simple, grounding. I wiped my boots on the mat, heart still thudding from the drive. I'm passing through. Lost my place back in Willow Creek. Cafe went under. Need a job. Bored, if possible. I work hard. Cleaned counters, dawn to dusk. Handled inventory. Can learn chores. She nodded once, pouring coffee from a pot on the stove, handing me a mug without asking. Steam rose, warming my palms. Her eyes held mine a beat longer, not pitying, just weighing facts. No rush to decide. We sat at a scarred table, the chairs solid under me. Ranch is small. Horses, a few cattle. Need help mucking stalls, feeding at dawn. Spare room over the barn. Basic, but dry. Board for labor. Meals included. No frills. Practical, like listing fence posts. No sympathy for my story. Just the offer laid out plain. Relief edged in, loosening the knot in my chest. It wasn't charity. It was trade, my hands for a roof. I can do that, I said, voice steadier. When? Now, if you're set. Storm's picking up. She stood, grabbing keys from a hook. Outside, rain lashed harder, but her stride cut through it, leading me around the house to a weathered barn. Ladder up to a loft room, cot, quilt, small window overlooking pastures. Dust motes swirled in the lantern light she hung. Bathroom's in the main house. Supper's on if you want it. I nodded, unpacking the truck quick under her flashlight beam. Boxes thudded inside, the space filling with my sparse life, clothes, a photo of the cafe's opening day. Back in the kitchen, she ladled stew into bowls, chunks of potato and carrot steaming. Fire crackled in the hearth, flames licking logs that popped soft. We ate in near silence, spoons scraping china. The warmth spread slow, first in my belly, then easing the ache in my limbs. No probing questions, just her occasional glance, calm as the steam rising. Haze in the loft, start at 5. Facts, delivered without edge. For the first time since the keys left my hand, tension uncoiled a fraction. This wasn't Willow Creek's judgments. It was steadiness, like the ranch itself, rooted, unyielding. That night, I lay on the cot, rain drumming the tin roof above. The scent of hay filtered through cracks, mixing with the faint lavender from the quilt. Sleep came fitful at first, dreams of empty counters fading into the rhythm of distant thunder. But underneath, a quiet settled. Not the hollow kind from the cafe's close, but something solid. Tessa's voice echoed, plain and sure. No promises, just space to breathe. Morning broke gray, rooster crowing sharp. I pulled on boots, body protesting the cold floor, muscles sore from the drive. Down the ladder, into the barn where Tessa waited, pitchfork in hand. Stalls first, she said, handing me gloves. The work bit quick, shoveling muck, the tang of manure sharp in the air. My arms burned, back twinging. But as the first load hit the wheelbarrow, mind quieted. Just motion. Purpose in the sweat. She worked beside, short instructions cutting the chill. Loosen the bedding here. No rush, no eyes judging my form. The day unfolded steady, sun breaking through clouds by noon. Days blurred into a rhythm of sweat and earth, the kind that grounded you whether you wanted it or not. Dawn pulled me from the cot, chill air nipping as I descended the ladder, boots thudding soft on hay-strewn floor. Mucking stalls came first, pitchfork biting into soiled bedding, the sharp tang of manure mixing with dew-damp straw. Muscles screamed at the start, shoulders knotting, back protesting like twisted wire. But I pushed through. Load after load wheeled to the compost pile. Feeding followed, grain rattling into troughs for the horses, their warm breath fogging the air as they nudged my palms. A few cattle lowed in the pasture, their calls echoing off the hills. The burn in my arms wasn't just ache. It carried purpose, simple as filling a belly or clearing space. No customers to charm, no orders to juggle. Just work that ended when the sun climbed high. Tessa moved alongside, her instructions clipped and sure. Fork deeper here, loosen the pack. Short sentences, no fluff, delivered with a nod toward the task. She'd demonstrate once, grip firm on the tool, then step back, watching without hovering. Trust built in those gaps, silences, stretching comfortable as the wide sky. We'd pause mid-morning for coffee from a thermos, black and bitter, shared on split-rail fence. No deep talks, just the steam rising between us, her gaze on the horizon while I sipped, feeling the quiet seep in. It was her way, steady like the ranch's pulse, heartbeat of chores from feed to fence checks. I learned quick, hands callousing over, the routine wrapping around me like a worn jacket. Rural life pressed its limits hard. No jobs nearby, just the spread and a scattering of ranches miles apart, connected by dirt roads that washed out in storms. Willow Creek's gossip lingered in stray calls, a cousin phoning once, voice laced with pity and probe. Heard the cafe's shut. Folks say it's for the best with your situation. Judgment dripped like sap from a cut pine, reigniting the old sting. I hung up quick, phone heavy in my pocket, staring at the fields that swallowed signals anyway. Isolation wasn't just distance. It was the echo of those words, reminding me why I'd fled. No quick escapes here, no city hum to drown it, just the wind carrying faint moos and the crunch of gravel underfoot. But the work dulled the edge, turning worry to motion. I caught myself watching Tessa more, her unflinching routine stirring something sharp, envy, maybe, for that rooted calm. She'd rise before light, coffee brewing as stars faded, tackling chores with the same measured stride, rain or shine. No complaints when a fence post splintered or a horse shied. Just fix it, move on. Her hands moved, deliberate, wrapping wire or brushing a mare's coat, steady as canyon rock. I envied the ease, the way she fit this land without apology, while I still felt like a transplant. Roots, shallow. One afternoon, repairing a sagging fence line, we hauled posts together, sweat beading despite the breeze. Her laugh came rare, low when a hammer slipped, but it cut the tension. I hammered beside, nails biting wood, envying how she owned the day without the weight of what-ifs. That envy shifted subtle during the repair, tools clanging as we stretched, wire taut. Reaching for the pliers, our hands brushed callus to callus, brief as a spark off flint. Warmth lingered, not just skin, but something deeper, pulling at the quiet I'd buried. She didn't pull away quick, eyes meeting mine a beat longer, the wire humming between us. No words, just the moment hanging, wind rustling cottonwoods nearby. It stirred the air, made the routine feel less like survival, more like settling. Evenings wound down by the fire, logs snapping in the hearth, casting shadows that danced slow. We'd eat simple, beans and cornbread, steam rising from plates, then sit, mugs in hand. That night, as flames licked lower, old wounds surfaced in the low light. Tessa poked the embers, voice even. Lost a spread once, years back. Drought took it. Her words hung, steady like the ridge beyond the window. I nodded, the fire's warmth easing into my bones, pulling my own story closer to the surface. Her story spilled slow that night, embers glowing like buried coals. Tessa stared into the fire, voice steady as ridge rock, uncracked by the years. Drought came hard, crops withered, wells ran dry. Bank took the land, family place gone in a season. She paused, fingers tracing a scar on the table's edge, calluses catching wood grain. No tears, just the weight carried plain. I'd lost the cafe to whispers and debt. But she spoke of earth turning against you, relentless as sun on parched soil. Left me this ranch, smaller, but mine. Her eyes met mine then, unflinching, sharing the hollow that follows theft. I leaned forward, the fire's heat pressing my skin. Sounds like starting over midfall. She nodded once. Falls teach you to land different. Vulnerabilities hung in the air after. Silence is thicker, but not heavy. Days on, I tried my hand at the ranch books, old cafe habits stirring. Spreadsheets on a battered laptop in the kitchen, receipts scattered like fallen leaves. Numbers blurred at first, feed costs climbing, vet bills sharp, but I sorted them, columns aligning under my fingers. Try number 1 failed quick. A miscount on hay inventory? Tessa shaking her head gentle. Close, but check the dates. Frustration bit, but I pushed, reviving that knack for balancing orders and tips. Second try, pages balanced, margins slimmer than I'd thought. She glanced over my shoulder, breath warm near my ear. Solid. Keeps us afloat. Pride flickered small, like dawn light on frost. My skills not lost, just shifted to this ground. Tension cracked back in a phone call midweek, wind howling through canyons outside like a warning. Cousin Lila from Willow Creek, voice syrup sweet over static. Elena, town's talking, cafe shut, folks say it's the lifestyle. No place for, well, you know. Judgment laced every word, reigniting doubt like dry tinder. Church groups praying for you, but maybe time to settle proper. I gripped the receiver, heart thudding erratic, the old isolation surging. Hung up sharp, phone clattering to the counter. Why chase me here? Small towns bled gossip across miles, limited jobs meaning I'd heard it all before. No escape in remoteness, it just amplified the echo. Sensory anchors pulled me steady after. Wind whipped through the canyons, carrying sage and cool bite, rustling aspen leaves in waves. I'd step out, boots crunching gravel, letting it scour the doubt clean. Tessa's touch grounded more, calluses brushing mine when passing tools, rough and sure, slowing my pulse from frantic to even. Heart thud eased, like settling after a long ride. One afternoon, repairing irrigation line, her hand steadied mine on the pipe, dirt under nails, warmth seeping through. No words, just the contact lingering, canyon echoes fading to quiet. Attraction grew in those margins, quiet walks after chores sealing it. We'd head out at dusk, paths winding through pastures, her stride matching mine without effort. Sky bruised purple, horses grazing distant, their tails flicking like metronomes. Eyes met longer now, hers dark, holding mine over shared horizons. Unspoken invitation in the tilt of her head. See that ridge? She'd say, pointing, voice low. I'd nod. But it was her profile I traced, the way wind tugged her hair, stirring something deep. Not rush, but pull, like gravity in the earth underfoot. One evening, pausing by a creek, water murmuring over stones. Our shoulders brushed. She didn't move away. The air thickened, charged soft, my breath catching on the edge of want. Storm hit sudden that night, thunder rumbling low like approaching cattle. Rain lashed the barn roof, wind rattling shutters, isolation closing in tight. Power flickered, then out, leaving us by lantern in the main house. Proximity forced it, bodies close on the couch, quilts draped for warmth, fire built hasty. Confession, brewed in the dark, her knee against mine, steady even as lightning cracked. That call shook you, she said, voice cutting the howl. I nodded, words tumbling. Feels like running never ends. Her hand found my arm, callous to skin, anchoring. The storm raged, but here, in the flicker, truths edged closer. Lightning split the dark again, thunder chasing close, shaking the house like a warning. The lantern swung gentle, casting shadows that danced on the walls, her knee still pressed to mine under the quilt. I pulled back a fraction, the warmth too close, stirring doubts I'd buried under chores. This place, your peace, I've been here weeks now. What if I'm just another weight? The words slipped out, raw in the storm's howl. Questioning staying hit hard that night, isolation amplifying every fear. I'd come for work, not to root in her quiet life, but the routine had woven in deep, making leaving feel like tearing fresh sod. External pressure crept in the next day, sun breaking through clouds like false promise. A call from Willow Creek. Lila again, voice sharp over the line. Rumors reached the feed store here. Your truck spotted, talk of the cafe's fall and who you left behind. Folks say you're shirking, running to hide your ways. Limited options trapped me tighter. No other ranches hiring this far out. Roads washing bad in spring melt. Jobs scarce as level ground in the hills. And now whispers bridging the miles, painting me unreliable, unfit. I paced the kitchen after, boots scuffing linoleum, heart thudding against ribs. Stay, and judgment followed like dust on wind. Leave, and where? The ranch felt like a cage now, steady but confining. Her calm, a mirror to my chaos. Try-fail cycled sharp that afternoon, mending a broken gate in the drizzle. I slammed the hammer down harder than needed, nails bending under force. I should go, I said, wiping sweat and rain from my brow. Find something elsewhere, not impose here forever. First try at pulling away, voice edged with resolve. Tessa straightened from the post, eyes steady, wiping mud from her hands. Impose? You've balanced the books, fixed the irrigation. This place runs smoother with you. Her calm rebuttal cut through, exposing the pull I'd ignored, feelings threading quiet, like roots under soil. I argued back, frustration rising. But the rumors, the talk, it'll touch you too. I can't drag that here. Fail again. Words tumbling defensive, but her gaze held unflinching, drawing out the truth I'd skirted. Revelation turned slow as dusk fell, us back in the barn checking tack. She set down the bridle, voice even, but softer. Company's not a burden. After the drought took my land, silence got loud. Nights alone, wind howling empty. Grief softened her walls then, admission hanging like mist in the loft. She'd shared losses before, but this cracked deeper. Need for someone to fill the quiet, not just labor, but presence. My chest tightened, seeing her not as unyielding rock, but woman carrying hollows. I thought you didn't need anyone, I murmured, hand pausing on a saddle. She shook her head, faint smile cracking. Everyone needs, just takes time to say it. The air shifted, her vulnerability mirroring mine, pulling us closer without force. Emotional peak, built with the rain, picking up again, us retreating to the porch as night deepened. Water sheeted off the roof, pooling in the yard, thunder rumbling distant now. We stood shoulder to shoulder, arms brushing, the downpour soaking our shirts in minutes. I fear staying means losing the steadiness you have, I said, voice nearly lost in the roar. Hands clasped then, hers rough and warm enveloping mine, rain dripping from our hair. Vulnerability shared in the clasp, my doubts pouring out like the storm, her grip anchoring without words. You don't take it away. You add to it. Tears mixed with rain on my cheeks, the peak crashing soft, not breaking, but binding. Her thumb traced my knuckles, steady pulse against my racing one, the world narrowing to that touch. Calm settled after the storm, air fresh with petrichor, stars pricking through clouds. We dried by the fire, silence comfortable again, embers glowing low. Decision formed quiet to build something new together, not just chores, but shared ground. Her hand lingered near mine on the armrest. Promise, in the warmth. The ranch felt less like refuge, more like beginning. Doubts washed clean. Sun rose clear the next morning, light slanting through the barn slats, dust motes swirling like settled thoughts. I found paper in the kitchen drawer, pen scratching uneven as I wrote the letter to Willow Creek, to Lila, to the ghosts of regulars who'd turned away. Words poured deliberate. The cafe's fall wasn't just debts or whispers. It was me choosing paths they couldn't follow. No apologies. Just truth. My life, my losses, claimed. Sealing it felt like dropping a stone into deep water, ripples, fading. I chose here, this ranch, Tessa's steady orbit, not running anymore, but rooting where the soil held. We tackled the old shed that week, sagging against the windbreak, roof patched with tarp, but walls leaning like tired shoulders. Joint project, her idea, voiced over breakfast coffee, steam curling between mugs. Fix it together. Room for tools, maybe more. Symbol of commitment, unspoken but solid as the post we'd set. I grabbed hammer and nails, her saw cutting clean through warped boards, the scent of fresh pine rising sharp. Muscles burned side by side, sweat tracing paths down our necks, but rhythm built. Me measuring, her planing edges smooth. No rush, just the thud of mallet on stake, wire pulled taut between us. Midway, when a beam slipped, her hand caught my arm, steadying. We've got it. Mutual steadiness bloomed there, her calm weaving into mine, turning labor into promise. The shed rose frame by frame, not grand, but ours, space for what came next. Dusk fell as we stepped back, stars pricking the sky like scattered nails. Air cooled, carrying creek murmur and horse snorts from the pasture. We sat on the new steps, backs against wood still warm from the day's sun, shoulders touching light. Love's quiet bloom unfolded then, her gaze turning to mine in the dark, unflinching. Staying? She asked, voice low as the earth under us. I nodded, hand finding hers, calluses meshing rough and sure, leaned in slow, lips meeting simple, grounded like the ranch soil. No storm, just warmth spreading steady. Her breath mingled with mine, hand cupping my jaw gentle, the kiss lingering soft, tasting of salt and promise. Pulled back, foreheads resting, stars wheeling above. Not fireworks, but anchor, her presence filling the hollows I'd carried. Overcoming constraints came in waves after, gossip's echo fading against our focus. Another call from town, Lila's voice edged. Heard you're settled up there with her. Folks talk, you know. I hung up mid-sentence, phone set down, calm. Ignored it, like wind over ridges. Let it pass. Limited jobs elsewhere didn't matter. Here, we built legacy in the ranch's quiet pulse. Fences mended stronger, pastures grazed even, our hands shaping it shared. No need to chase whispers. Steadiness lay in the daily. Her laugh, rare but real when a calf nudged too bold. Purpose found its shape slow, my cafe skills adapting to fill voids in this remote stretch. Organized a gathering first. Neighbors from scattered ranches, potluck under the shed's new roof. I handled the setup, tables borrowed, coffee brewing strong in a percolator, scones baked from pantry staples. Folks trickled in, wary at first, but warmth drew them. Stories swapped over mugs, laughter cutting the chill. Tessa watched from the edge, her nod approving as I poured. Old habits revived. Not in a bustling counter, but here, bridging isolations. One woman lingered after, sharing her own losses over second cups. The void eased, not replaced, but repurposed. Community in small measures, grounded in this land. Months passed in that flow, seasons turning, summer heat baking the earth, fall leaves crunching under boots. Reflection hit one evening, walking the fence line with her, sun dipping low, transformed. Not the woman who'd fled empty streets, but one who belonged. Purpose woven into the ranch's rhythm, steadiness in her stride. Beside mine, the clothes felt earned, life remade quiet but full. Dawn light crested the porch, our hands intertwined rough and warm, the world steady underfoot like rooted earth. Lost noise traded for enduring quiet truth, the kind that holds without shatter. If quiet truths resonate, share your story below. Subscribe for more Sapphic journeys that ground the heart.